So thank you, Todd, and everyone for this invitation. I'm a faculty in the Department of Chemistry, Biochemistry Learning Specialist with the Masters of Medical Biotechnology program at the University of Windsor. It's a program with mainly international students, which have grown tremendously over years. And it started back in 2013. And so we have grown now over 100 students for every fall cohort. Right now, we are looking at 300 graduate students for the incoming fall 2024 cohort, and that just makes my heart beat even higher. So today I'm going to share some of my aspects with teaching in this medical biotechnology program. So I teach a couple of core science courses in this graduate program, and we often have students who are not that engaged and looking for uh, for reasons why could such thing be affecting their engagement. And in one of my surveys, I captured that there is a required textbook for one of the courses I teach, which is a clinical biochemistry course, which is a required textbook course in this program, which is offered over the winter term. And on a survey, I found that majority of the international students were not even purchasing the textbook and were not engaged in the classroom as a reason, I believe. And so that was my starting enthusiasm or starting reason for exploring what can I do next to engage my students a little bit more. So one of the reasons I found out they were not purchasing the text was because of the high tuition cost. And in addition to the rising inflation and rental cost and whatnot, so students are shying away from the textbook purchase. So affordability was one big reason. This led me to starting exploring a little bit of more OERs in the space. And I found out there are a lot of open education resources which were published, and many of our faculty, the biochemistry in chemistry education field, were exploring and were adapting in their courses. So I think I went on for a big challenge of taking on creating a new textbook, an open textbook, and that led us from the switch from the required textbook to this open textbook, which was zero cost. And I think the idea was rooted in providing in removing barriers to education access, to enhancing inclusivity in general, and so that's very helpful. There were many other reasons for the shift towards the open pedagogy. Definitely the affordability cost. Often textbooks would end by the end of the term. Say by the end of the term, the e-text and the students won't have an access thereafter. So with this open textbook, they would have this content and this wisdom knowledge for the lifetime. In addition, because as I said in the beginning, the medical biotechnology program is an international program where we have students flocking in from diverse demographics from Asia, from Iran, from Saudi Arabia, from India, Pakistan, China, and you name a place, and we have a student from there, from Malaysia, everywhere around the globe. But also they are multidisciplinary, so they have their background education in microbiology, in biochemistry, there are vets there, we have dentists, we have physicians. So it's a very mixed classroom, and we find it was challenging seeing the knowledge gaps to bring everybody have the great student experience they would like to have and get the max out of the contents. So one of the reasons for me shifting towards this open pedagogy was also to get some, to build kind of a foundation material and also shift the course, the clinical biochemistry course in particular, which I teach, to more from didactic learning, which was taught previously, to more case-based learning, which I thought will make it more interactive. But then I can also add some foundational material to bridge that knowledge gap with our diverse learners. I could add diverse voices. So again, based on the UDI principle, having that diverse voices and perspective, I thought was great. And I think the another reason why I shifted towards open pedagogy is I think pandemic was another driving force for me. So during that time, how were the students in different parts of the globe were able to get the required textbook? Were they able to courier it? How were they able to access the content I was teaching? So that also led me to generate some of the open pedagogical material, just making it available free of cost, openly for international grad students. And so there was another reason which I thought was amazing. I wanted to also incorporate some of the COVID-related cases, the emerging COVID-19 in clinical biochemistry course. And there was no text, that required textbook was just not capturing that at that point of time. So the open pedagogy or open textbook allows one to have that dynamic contents incorporated into their curriculum or their classroom. And so that I thought was amazing. I'm hoping I can show you the Pressbook generated with this brief intro. I don't know if can somebody say if they are able to see the book?
I put the link in the chat so we can actually open the book, and it's amazing. I don't know if it's going to open in a new tab or something. You're probably sharing PowerPoint right now, so it won't show.
Oh, so let me stop that. And if it's okay, can I share my screen one more time?
Of course.
I have too many links open for my book here, nevertheless, but I'm not able to. Let me see if I can pull that up quickly. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. And so are you able to see the screen now, Don? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
So this led to generation of this open textbook. Now this has now led to a new version. So I've kept it updated throughout the years. So this has now come to a version 0.1 with this Creative Commons license. And this can also be downloaded for EPUB, for tablets, smartphones, and digital PDF versions as well. So if you go on to read the contents, it always comes, the Pressbook, the neat thing about it is very flexible. It's organized in chapters. It has a very easy to use interface, and it has a nice landing page, as we can see here. The text I arranged was in terms of different organ systems I was covering in the clinical biochemistry course. So if I was teaching renal system, I would take some of the nephrology case studies, throw in there, and that would, there will be some introduction, which I'm still working on. So there is a little bit of introduction of nephrology, and this would then be, the students can then go and look at the different cases. So under nephrology, let me pick one example here. So when we started designing these cases, we started of thinking, we did not actually think from the right get-go the accessibility issues. I just started, the first thought was on content generation. And I think that was one of my mistakes. So whenever you're starting to work on, for the educators in general, on Pressbook, on open publishing, I think it is a good idea to have those accessibility accessibility ideas ahead of time. So we started with a little bit of text, which eventually we led into some of the summary in the form of audio. I don't know if you guys can hear that audio or not. Then we also added some hyperlinks for the medical terminologies. So we could see the students from different backgrounds were able to go through those hyperlinks of medical terminologies and relate to those difficult terms. We had some learning objectives identified, the clinical history, how do you get some parameters around that, and then created an interactive video. Most of the time, based on my interactions with my students, I found out I'm giving them a case to read and come prepared in the class, and nobody is reading an article. Everybody is overwhelmed with whatever things they have in their busy lives, and the students are not reading the resource I'm providing. So one way of that was an interactive video, which is kind of a summary of this entire case, but in a more interactive fashion. I'm going to play this. Hopefully everybody can see and hear. So then I've integrated some H5P quizzes. So H5P is an open source platform. H5P stands for HTML5 package. Now there is a plugin in the Pressbook WordPress, and that allows educators to integrate, reproduce, and empowers the educators to create these amazing interactive quizzes. So we had some quizzes, for example, in this case, this is true and false. They could check, the test in their knowledge, and they can continue on that way. So this keeps going, and there were different questions which they could select for a classical triad, check which were correct or incorrect, and keep going. And if I should have checked one, and there is also a feedback provided if I did not, I have not checked on the right triad, classical triad, proteinuria needs to be selected as well. So if the student did not do that, so the feedback was provided. And here is also a hint, and it allows within iSign to check and provide the hint to the students to see how they're learning. I think that was very powerful to have that feedback, real-time feedback in place. I think helps in the clinical biochemistry learning as well. We also had some guiding questions built in, and some medical terminologies, references, and some further readings. So let me also take you through some of the other cases, maybe another one, hepatology, for an example. Again, a little bit of introduction on hepatology. The students would have some foundational knowledge on that. And then there's a case, this one is on Wilson disease. Again, likewise, a case summary. And so we had just a text before, and then we started incorporating audio as well. So in addition to the text, some visual images and some YouTube videos for basic understanding and the interaction part as well. So again, another interactive video, which would sum up the video. I'm just going to take it forward to show the different brain scans and CT scans, and then what are the different diagnoses. So H5P, the good thing about the H5P is there are a number of available options one can use. So we have seen true and false, some selection based, and this is drag and drop. So we can drag and drop whatever functions one seems are appropriate, then check that and confirm and continue from there. So that's one feature or one example of that. But then there are other features of the H5P as well. So the quizzes came at certain places, and I could place them based on where I thought was appropriate. So I can choose a wrong answer and then check again, and it will say, oh, it's incorrect. And they can again look at this I feature, which will give them a hint. So this is again I think that really provides a real-time feedback, is very powerful in this case, I thought. They can also look at their scores at the end, that how they have, how much they have captured through that content, and go over their back and again at their own pace, at their own time, and cover concepts. Again, the guiding questions which lead to the final diagnosis, and they can check the answers. Answers were hidden for reasons, but if they're interested, they can check the answers as a part of the next chapter. So I can show you where the answers were. For example, for nephrology case again, if we go back to nephrology's first case, so the guiding questions were there, but the chapter number 2 provided the answers to those questions. I just tried to make sure that they're thinking on their own for the questions first and have the answers, and then they can explore those answers at their own time and pace. So these were some of the features which I thought was great, but I also want to show you some of the back end, because I think it's really possible to cover some of these things with the interactive interface the Pressbook has. I'm not sure. I think Todd, you mentioned we do have something at the Washington, so that would be great. So this is the back end of how the dashboard looks like at the Pressbook level itself. And so you can look at the analytics, how many have been looking, how many visitors have been there, how many real-time page views. So it gives you that real-time analytics as well. You can also organize the books, or there is an organize here as well, but you can also click here and go from there. I think what the amazing feature of Pressbook is it allows you to edit individual chapters. For example, here the case one, which I just showed in nephrology, one can edit those text and add more interactive features, which can be added via H5P. Over here, it says to add H5P. So when you click on that H5P, whatever interactive video you have generated from the H5P can be incorporated into the Pressbook. So it does allow a lot of flexibility and to do that. And it has a very, very easy interface. One thing I would suggest is choosing the themes and appearances, paying attention to that, because we want to make sure they meet the accessibility criteria. So for example, for this Pressbook, we use Malala as an active theme, as can be shown here. So Malala, I would again recommend as using as a theme if you're thinking of publishing any open resource, any open textbook using the Pressbook platform. Malala is compatible for both online prints as well as for in-text publishing. It has the sans serif font, which is an accessible font, which is inbuilt within Malala theme. So it takes care of that accessibility as well. I believe so that those are the some of the, so it's very optimal for both online screen reading as well as in-print reading as a theme. So those are some tips for using the Pressbook version. Another great part of that is if you go back to dashboard, it allows you to manage your users. So it has this interactivity, but it also has the collaborative space, so you can collaborate with different authors and so forth. So that was the last thing I just wanted to share. I would stop it here.